Welcome to Melanated and Spiritually Woke. I'm your host, Adorable Earth Angel. I'm a holistic wellness educator of 12 years with a master's in public health, energy healing of 7 years, and have been a Black female spiritual alchemist my whole life. Each week, we'll be sharing uplifting, spiritually focused wellness practices to best support you in regaining your personal power, or we'll have special guest interviews with the same intention. This show is in service to all those listening, and especially for folks of color who are seeking information to support their physical, mental, and emotional spiritual awakening. These practices will help you live your best life. Hello. Thank you so much for joining us here this week on Melanated and Spiritually Woke. I'm Adorable Earth Angel, and I'm your host. And some of you may be thinking, Adorable Earth Angel, where did you get that name from? Did your mama give you that name? And the answer is, yeah, my mama did give me that name. My spiritual mom gave me that name. It's quite a story. It's quite a story. A lot of us in this country have a name that is connected to a history. And, we call it our government name, right? I got that government name. And a huge part of my liberation and my journey has been in being in this place of surrender. I had it in me to change my name, basically, because I came through a transition in my life, a little bit of a trauma, if you will. The person who gave me my name, we had a challenge. We had a real big challenge as my mom. I love her so much. I'm getting really personal really quickly, but I bring it up because within the really, really big challenge and shift, I find myself at odds with my identity and who I was. And then I met a very interesting person. Maybe some of you out there have heard of this person. Her name is Amma, the Hugging Saint. There's this tiny brown woman out of India, and she has this practice of inviting people out to give her a hug. And so a couple of about 5 years ago, my friends are like, hey, let's go hug Amma. I'm like, go hug who? They're like, we're gonna go hug Amma. And I'm like, okay, I'll go hug this. I'll go hug Amma. So we all go out to this place in San Ramon. It's called the ashram, which is like a sacred place. And I receive a hug from Amma, and it is amazing. Like, there's all these people smiling at me, and I'm like, am I in a cult? And that was my first thought. And then my second thought was like, this is kind of cool. And you're waiting in line, and you get like a token, and then the token is a number and a letter on it, and you go up and you give it to them, and it's like thousands and thousands of people in this room, and you go and you get on the stage just to get down and on your knees to bend over gently and be received in a warm embrace. And it's said that when you hug her, magical things begin to happen. And so I was able to get that hug recently, this weekend, when Amma came to visit in San Ramon for her tour. It's been 5 years since I've met her, and I just had my most recent hug. And a huge part of what awakened in me was this need to be more authentic and to be really clear with who I am as a woman, as a Black woman, and what that means to have a name called Adorable Earth Angel. And it's like, I got this hit to just share who I am. Like, why do I have that name? And there's something really potent and powerful about that name. So then I got my hug recently, and then if I were to backtrack 5 years when I first had my first hug, I was like, wow, it's the same level of potency. And as I mentioned, I had that challenge with my actual mom, and the original name that she gave me was Jasmine, which is a beautiful name. And I fell into this place of having a lot of challenge with maintaining that name because of that challenge with my mom. Because as I was advancing and as I was growing and I was building and as I was choosing the light, it got really hard for our relationship. It got really challenging. And it was one of the most devastating moments of my life to be divorced from my mom. And it spiraled me down into this deep seat of depression. And I found myself at odds with my identity. And I didn't feel like I could fully be who I was. And I got to this point where I was at this space. I actually went to Burning Man. And I was at Burning Man in the desert. I woke up one morning. I was devastated. I was in a dark place. And I woke up and I was in this camp called Chakralicious. And I went over and there was this tent, and this tent had all these 7 chakras. For those of you, these chakras are these different energy sites in our body. And I woke up and I felt so horrible. And I went over and I sat in front of this altar, and it was the heart chakra. It had all these things around heart chakra on it. And I just started crying. I just started crying for such a long time. And all of this despair and all these feelings, and I was hearing the negativity that I was told about myself. I heard all the negativity that I was told about myself as a child from my own family and from different people, like you're never going to find anyone. No one's ever going to love you. You're not valuable. All these things that I was told, and I just let it all flood over me. And I reached this point, I really felt like, why should I even be here? Why should I be on this planet? And as soon as I said that in my mind, it got really calm. I started feeling this energy come over my body, and I hear a voice, and it says, look up. And I look up, and I have all these tears in my eyes, and I'm looking it up, and I see this picture, and it's a picture of Amma, the hugging saint. And I look her in the eyes, and she's just smiling at me. And I'm just looking at her, and I'm breathing, and all of a sudden I hear like a person talking, right? And no one's in the space but me. I hear a voice say, look down. And I look down at the altar, and in front of me is a rose quartz. Rose quartz is a type of stone, and it's this beautiful pink stone, and inscribed on this smooth stone is adorable. And then I heard this voice say to me, you are adorable. You are adorable. And it was in that moment that I realized that I would never be the same again. It was a rebirth. It was me coming into a rebirth of who I really was. And it was challenging. It was hard because it was like, wait a minute, I'm going to walk around as a Black woman in America called adorable. It's like, yeah, that's your name now. That's your name. That's your name. That's who you really are. And I see it. When I walk around and I'm like, hi, I'm adorable. Everyone's just, their hearts melt. People laugh and they smile and they're like, you are adorable. That's so adorable. And it's like, wow, this name has just changed my entire life. Where people are able to look at a Black woman and say, you're adorable. Hi, adorable. It's in itself feels like an act of resistance as well, beyond just spirituality. It's like my resistance to being less than adorable as a Black woman. And that's the story of my name. And I just wanted to be very bold in sharing that, because the energy that I'm picking up for this week, for those that are listening, is this need to be bold. This is need to be bold. It's this need to not stop hiding, right? It's this need to not hide. It's this need to share who you really are. We don't want you showing up to this party trying to blend into the wall, right? Stop holding up the wall. It's about upholding the truth of who you are. And the best way I can do that is if I'm completely vulnerable and truthful to you. And so the energetics of this particular week for us, again, is the energy of moving into the bold. We're moving into Leo. Leo is the energy of creativity and expression. Leo is the energy of being dramatic, which I like to think that was a bit of a dramatic story. But there's something within there. There's a nugget. There's a seed of light in my story, and that truth, and it's about the alchemy. It's about recognizing that right now in your life, there's aspects with this Leo energy that's like, what could you be doing to alchemize? What could you be doing to actually express the joy of who you are? Is that going to piss some people off? Probably. Some people might not like you being bold. Some people might not like you alchemizing and you transforming yourself. It might be weird that all of a sudden you have a new name. Maybe it's not that your name has changed, but the inner name, the inner naming of who you are, the inner words of what you represent, those are changing. And that is the truth. That is the truth of what this moment represents. And so there's a bearing of spirit. There's a bearing of our heart to spirit. There's a bearing of our heart to the true intention of spirit. And spirit speaks to us in so many different ways. Like for me, spirit spoke through, a picture on an altar and a gemstone. And someone would go, well, did she really name you? I'm like, yeah, no, that was real. We can't take that away from anybody. We can't take anything away from our people. I love this kind of quote that's going around like, I'm rooting for everyone Black. I'm rooting for everyone. And, another tool that's been really helpful that I want to actually kind of actually be the focal point of today is astrology. I brought up that we're in the Leo energy. It's coming. My beautiful Leo people out there. And most of you actually might not know that you have every single of the zodiacs in your birth chart. Some people think, I'm a Gemini, I'm a Sag, I'm a Taurus. But did you know that you actually have all 12 signs represented in you? And they come out in different aspects of your life and different aspects of your day, depending on what you're focused on. That's pretty neat. So even though, as I'm talking about Leos, you're like, well, I'm out of Leo, I'm going to tune out. You actually have Leo energy, and you'll feel the collective energy of Leo. And that is the expression of Leo, the energy of it being summertime, and it being passionate, and it being bold. This is where we're really social, and we're having fun. This is the energetics of the summer, and that is the archetype of Leo. And so there's so many ways for us to kind of play with astrology and think about that and think about the boldness of what astrology can give us. A lot of us know that astrology is connected to the sun signs, right? We each have an understanding that again, we might have a sun sign, we might be an Aquarius or a Sag, but most people don't know is that astrology extends beyond just that kind of broad stroke of your sun sign. Astrology actually gets deep. It gets into your birth time. And your birth time can help us as astrologers calculate so much more to you than beats the eye. There's a whole world of knowledge around how you energetically show up on this planet based on your chart. That's predictable, and that's also available to you to help you navigate changes that you're wanting to make to align. Because baby, at these times, it's all about alignment. It's all about you aligning to who you really are. And so I'm curious, like, how many of you out there actually have taken the time to look at your birth chart to see like what's there, to turn over the rock and like see like more about who you are. A lot of people, when they come and talk to me in my practice, they're coming because they're at a crossroads and they've been going on this kind of journey with this one personality, and then there's a recognition that actually, maybe there's some things about me that I don't know. And so they sit in front of me and I show them all these things about their chart, like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. That's why I like it that way, and that's why I'm making this decision, and that's why I'm transitioning. And so for me, it's like astrology is one of those ways in which we can come into a greater sense of our boldest expression, because we know ourselves. And when you know yourself, no one can say anything to you. When you know who you are, there's no need to feel ashamed about how you're going to take a circumstance, or when you need to shift, or what emotionally makes you come alive. So today, let's take a moment. Now, some of us out there do know our charts really well. We know the three main kind of aspects of our astrology chart, which is the rising sign. The rising sign is the specific zodiac that was present as you were coming into the earth. It was rising from the east. And so that's your rising. That's the rising sign. The rising sign represents your personality. It's who people meet when they first meet you. It's like the mask that you wear. And it's like, so you're going into a situation, you're going to bring your representative, right? It's not quite you yet. It's like somebody who's going to be there to meet people. That's your rising sign. So you ever notice when you first meet someone, you kind of meet someone, and then when you get to know them, their personality changes a little bit, and you're like, whoa, that's cool. Like, you were this person, and then now you're this person. That's because you met their rising, and then you got to meet other parts of their chart, like their moon or their sun. So within the rising, rising is when we think about predictive astrology. Rising means that I can take someone's rising sign and look at their houses, and I can predict, or I can say, this is a great time for you to sell your home. This is the best time for you to try for a baby. This is the best time for you to launch your business. That's when you use predictive astrology, when it's based on the time of your birth and your rising. And the rising is so beautiful too, because the rising denotes a really big aspect of your of how you're perceived by others. A lot of people are wanting to be more authentic about who they are. And when you know you're rising, what you're tapping into is you're knowing how you're going to be perceived by other people. What that means is you have the freedom to really just be yourself, because you're like, oh, people are going to perceive me in this one way. I might as well just fully be that way and not try to cover it up. For instance, I'm actually a Scorpio rising. People see the word Scorpio, they're like, whoa, but Scorpios are beautiful. It's a very beautiful energy. I feel very tapped into spirit. There's a level of transformation that follows me around. Sometimes, I told you my story earlier, that was definitely a transformational story. Sometimes it's less intense. But what I've learned to embrace with being a Scorpio rising is that sometimes people aren't going to like me, and sometimes people are. It's kind of like either you like it or you don't. And I'm fine with that. I know that that's like kind of like a guard dog, and the people who really want to show up for me, they really want to be in my life, they're going to get past that Scorpio, and they're going to go into getting to know all the other parts of my chart. And so when you think about it, your rising is also kind of like a bodyguard, right? It's like if people want to hang out with you and that's it, they're like, okay, I'm done with that. I just want that part of you. They're going to bounce. So that's your rising sign. And I could give other examples. For instance, if you're a Cancer rising, your Cancer rising is going to be a person who, when you first meet them, you just feel an openness about them. You feel like you could just tell them anything. You feel like there's just a lot of heart and there's a lot of love in their eyes. And they make you feel like you're just the best person ever, That's when you're meeting a Cancer rising who, again, is in a higher vibration within who they are. Because there's a high vibration of astrology, and then there's a lower vibration, because we're all evolving. We're all going to the next levels of who we are. And so you'll find characteristics, right, of people who say, oh, Cancers are just emotional, they're moody, they're just full of a lot of negativity. And it's like, okay, we could say that, but that's kind of the shadow expression of Cancer. The light expression of Cancer is that they're nourishing, they're life-giving, they're like a mother's hug. They're the software to the hardware of life. They're the sweetness. They're a home-cooked meal. It's like that good stuff that you love from grandma. That's that Cancer energy. And so knowing your rising is really a big deal. Knowing your rising could help you have a better sense of joy and a higher quality of life. And it lets you know how to use your power. So for instance, I know I'm a Scorpio rising. I'm not finna to go into a situation trying to act like something I'm not, because I'm gonna be using so much of my energy to do that. I can just authentically be like, this is who I am. And that feels great for me. I don't have to like go in there trying, okay, well, let me try to pretend like I'm, this person. It's like, I can be consistent with who I am. And so there's just a permission given for you to feel that consistency of your boldness by claiming your rising identity. Now, the rising is how we activate projects too. So you may notice that you'll initiate something, but then what it takes to finish the project will be something different in your chart. So it's a very beautiful placement that we each all have, and I invite you to check. If you know your birth time, you can go on cafeastrology.com and you can see like what's my rising sign, and just kind of geek out, like just getting you the basics of like who you are. Your rising is one of those main things. Now, another important thing, we talked about the sun, but there's some people know so much about the sun that I don't think I'm going to really talk about it. I'll kind of lightly skim over like the sun. Like the qualities of the sun are really based on this broader stroke of what we bring in life. It's very generalized. It's kind of like the overall flavor of who we are. It's the overall essence. That's our sun sign. It's like this big radiant energy. It's the sun. It's the biggest star. It's the biggest star in our solar system, and it's us. It's like it's this bigger arching theme. So it's very general though. It's not something that's super tangible. Your sun sign is just there. It's just bright and it's shining, and that's based on your birthday. Like everybody knows their sun sign. Now, your moon sign, that's kind of less known. People are like, what's your moon sign? Your moon sign is clearly the opposite of the sun. The moon is your emotions. The moon represents your inner world. It represents what you think on the inside that people can't see. And sometimes your moon and sometimes your ascendant can be the same sign, and sometimes they could be different. A lot of times they're different. A lot of times, all your sun, your moon, and ascendant are all three different signs. So that means within you, competing for attention are these three different signs that have different intentions. You ever wonder, you're with someone who's really cool. I'll give you an example. I have a friend, really beautiful friend, and they have a very chill sun sign. So when I'm with them, the general frequency is this very beautiful, chill, and then their moon sign is very fiery. So their emotions are really fiery. So we'll just be chilling, having fun. I don't know, out of nowhere, they're just angry. I'm like, okay. But I know their birth chart. So it's like, oh, okay, that's their moon sign. It's an Aries. That's fiery. That's like, not only is that Aries, that's like that Aries is that instant anger. It's like, boom. It's like, I'm angry now. I'm like, I don't even know why I'm angry. And it's like, okay, I know that my friend does that. And I'm like, oh, I'm not mad at you. We're going to be friends forever. I have no problem with this because I know your chart. And I respect you enough to know your chart. And that's another thing. It's like, we should know the charts of everybody around us. We should be investigating the charts so that we know how to show up for our community. It's like, I know my dad's chart. I know my brother's chart. I know all of my besties. I know all of their charts. So I know when something's coming up, this is how my friend's going to handle emotions. My friend over here, she is a Capricorn moon. She's going to just be so chill when it comes to emotions. I know my friend with the Capricorn moon. I've never seen her mad once. I've been her friend for 7 years. I've never seen her mad. Ever. That's that Capricorn moon. It's not gonna react to the emotions. What it's gonna do is gonna process it on its own, and then it's gonna come back and it's gonna kind of almost like absorb it in a different way. So your moon signs are really, really important. They're how you connect to the inner world of yourself, and also it's what you enjoy, right? So it's like, you ever notice one person, what makes them feel emotionally content is different than another person. You can have someone who's super emotionally content with an ice cream cone. Another person is emotionally content talking. Another person is emotionally content like being physically active. And so your emotions are actually governed, and what you need emotionally to be satisfied is governed by your moon sign. So it's another great reason to know your moon sign, because you can know, oh, I have a, let's see, who can I pick on right now? I have a Sagittarius moon. I need to connect with the truth. When I have the truth, I feel emotionally safe. That's my Sag people out there, the Sag moons. They like to have the truth. They like to have fun. Sagittarius moons are the type of folks that love to have a good time. They love to bring a lot of light to a situation that might be challenging. So they're probably the ones that maybe joke about their emotions. That's a Sag moon, right? And so these different aspects of us make up a body of energy that represents us and how we express ourselves. Now, I mentioned before that there's this thing called the houses, and each house has a different theme. And so once you know your ascendant on your chart, you can then look down and you can see these different aspects of yourself reflected in your birth chart. The first level is your identity. It's also like your ascendant is also what you physically look like, which is kind of cool. So you like how you physically look is determined by your ascendant. A couple of other aspects of your chart determine how you physically look as well, but that's the number one thing. Your second house represents your money and your possessions. It represents your house, your car, the type of things you own inside of your house. That's your second house. Your third house represents your communication, and it represents short distance travel. So like now second house, right? The car that you drive, and then the third house is where you're going in your car, right? Like where you're going to go in your car, where you're driving to. Represents your early education years. So what you were learning when you were in your former education years, when you were in, when you were in middle school, when you were in elementary, middle, high school, those years, those are all the third house. Your fourth house represents the home. It represents the mother. It represents your emotions, your roots, your foundations, your ancestry. Your fifth house represents creative expression. It represents your hobbies, what you enjoy doing in your spare time, what you enjoy doing when it comes to artistic expressions. Your sixth house represents your routine and your daily habits, your work, how you work. Do you work at a 9 to 5? Are you an entrepreneur? Your work style. Your habits is in like, do you have a schedule? Your health routines, like what you eat, health foods. Your seventh house represents the connection to other people. It's how you relate to others. So it's your partnerships, your marriage, your friendships, your business relationships, just anybody who's not you basically is the seventh house, and how you connect with them. Your eighth house represents a very interesting space. It's the space of transformation. It's a space of death, taxes, and sex. The eighth house is one of those kind of interesting houses that just encompasses all those kind of like taboo topics. It's the occult. It's the kind of things that go bump in the night, but it's also the things that completely transform and ascend. It's the energy of manifestation. It's the house of where we find other people's energy. So how you connect with someone else's energy, the relationships you have with other people. It's the energy of intimacy. The ninth house is the house of higher learning and wisdom and truth. It's the house where we find foreign affairs as it relates to international laws and international travel. It's also the house of justice. It's our legal system. It's laws, legislation. That's the ninth house. Then we have the 10th house. And the 10th house represents our outward expression and our outward contribution to this planet. So your 10th house is your career. What do you do for work? And how do you build your career? And what do you actually have an affinity to do when it comes to your career? And what your expression is. So, and it's the polar opposite of the fourth house, which is the fourth house is the house of, again, your inner world, where the 10th house is the house of your outer world. You see, they correspond. And then the 11th house is your social networks. It's your groups, your friends, your circles, the people that you gather around. It also represents your goals, your dreams, your aspirations. It's the space for humanity, and it's kind of the energetics of the future and the energetics of the collective. It's kind of getting into a bigger energy, which brings us to the 12th house, which is the house of the collective energy, but spiritually. So it's just like this oneness. It's God. It's the place where we find our connection to all that is. It's the place that we also connect with deception and disillusionment. The 12th house can be a place of isolation. It's where we have our institutions like prisons. It's where we have our institutions like homes for the elderly, just places where people are excluded or tucked away. It could be an ashram. It's where we have the places of monks. Monks is the 12th house. Like when monks go off and they're in like their high castle or in the hills. So those are the 12 houses I went over. And as you can see, that's pretty extensive. Like you are in one of those houses, you have a sign. All 12 of the zodiacs inside of you. So when you're working on your career, whatever sign is in the 10th house is going to be how you express your career. When you're in a relationship with someone, you're going to look to your 7th house to see how you're in relationship with them. When you're thinking about your income and your money, you're going to look to the 2nd house to see what's the best way for you to earn money. A lot of clients that come to me, sometimes they're earning money in ways that aren't in alignment with their birth chart. And then when I bring it up, they're like, oh yeah, I've always wanted to do that. And I'm like, go do it. It's in your chart. That means that you have the affinity to do that thing because it's right there. That's your energy. Your energy says you're going to be good at making money in that way. And so when people see that, there's a liberation, like, oh, well then I'm going to go clearly make money in that way. And so there's the opportunity for you to find yourself in a situation where there's a lot of release. Maybe as I'm talking, some people might have went on Cafe Astrology and pulled up their birth chart and are following along with me, and that's really cool. I hope you're doing that. And I hope throughout the series on Melanated and Spiritually Woke that we're going to be talking more about astrology. I'm going to bring some guests on, some experts on the topic of astrology, and get your opinion and have you weigh in on how astrology has impacted your life and how it's changed things for you. I know for me, when I got into astrology, when I got into starting to give readings, I felt a big shift within me. I felt a big alignment of being a truth teller. Because, here's the thing. Astrology, these planets have been spinning. They've been spinning for millennia. They've been spinning for a bunch of years, like billions of years before we came on the scene as humans, right? So we came on the scene, and what that means is that energetically, Jupiter, the planet of expansion, was doing its thing, and then I came on the scene. And so who's going to have more of the spiritual? Who's going to have that bigger spiritual pulling, me or Jupiter? Big Jupiter, who's been spinning for billions of years. It's going to be Jupiter, and I'm going to be pulled towards having a personality that's going to align with that because I was born at a specific time. And that at the heart is what astrology is about. It's saying that because you were born at this specific time, you're going to have an affinity for having a specific type of life. Astrology, in my opinion, and this may be very radical, is an opportunity for people of melanated backgrounds to be liberated. Because it's taking our power back and knowing our identity, especially an identity that's been stolen from us. And for me, it's like, because identities have been stolen from us, it's like we are having to almost invent an identity. We don't necessarily have to invent an identity. Our birth chart tells us so much about who we are. So there's so much liberation in being able to create from nothing an identity, to be able to create from a place of deception a name that's your real name, a name that you claim, an imprint, ability to claim a boldness. So in these times, it's the Leo energy. The Leo, again, is the energy of identity. It's about you standing out. It's about you standing on that freaking chair and dancing. It is about you bringing your boldness. And it's like, my invitation is for you to look at your birth chart and see what that boldness is. See who you are. Turn over that rock and collect more of your energy back. Collect more of your power. And allow yourself to go into a place where you have a bigger and greater expression of your power as it relates to your birth chart. Now, if you're more curious about astrology, you're more curious about energy healing, and you want to get in touch with me, please do. You could visit adorableenergy.com. I have resources for you. I have an energy healing sequence that's for free that I give to anyone who comes to my website. And I also just offer the opportunity for folks to connect with me and receive readings and hear more about who they are, as it's seen through the stars, through tarot, through human design, which is another system that we're going to talk about on this show. But that we have the ability to take our energy back when we know who we are. Thank you so much, all those listeners out there, for hearing about my story and for vibing with me on this astrology tip. I'm sending you so much love and positivity on your journey. And until next time, you've been listening to Melanated and Spiritually Woke. I'm your host, Adorable Earth Angel, and I will see you this time next week, as we'll be discussing another brilliant subject around the intersection of spiritual justice.